actually really honored to be here. It's not often that you get asked to speak, and if you can speak at part of something you're part of the alumni, it really means a lot, and it's really a big honor. So it's really great to be here. I'm just going to do three things and keep it fairly brief. I'm going to tell you all a personal story. I'm going to explain, dispel three different myths that might limit your success, and then I'm going to wrap up with a story that applies to everyone. So my story started pretty early. I left high school in my junior year of school. I was 17 years old, and I went to the Navy. The first thing the Navy told me was, "We don't want people like you." That was my introduction to the Navy. With that particular negative advice, with that particular entrance into the quote-unquote business world, that motivated me. It fired me up, and I refused to prove them right. I wanted to prove them wrong. So at 17 years old, I went to boot camp and graduated number 2. Still 17 years old without a high school education. I went to submarine school and finished number 1, and then went on to my trade school and finished number 1 there, and I was barely 18 years old. So I go to the submarine, and there I meet some of the best and brightest people I have ever met. I felt honored just to be amongst them. But during those times is where I personally found the value of education. While I was there, my mentor was enlisted, and he was twice my age. He knew everything about a submarine. He was the person that taught me how to survive and how to perfect my skill. Much like when many of you go to your particular places of employment, there's going to be some supervisor or someone there that if you're lucky, they'll teach you what you need to know so you can come along much faster. This was my mentor, and he was twice my age. Well, a month into it, a new officer came on board. He was 22 years old. Didn't know how to turn the light switches on a submarine. But my mentor was calling him sir. He was in essence teaching this 22-year-old how to be his boss. And as an 18-year-old, I thought that was kind of odd because here's a person that knows everything, but he's working for someone who knows nothing and is much younger. At that point, I kind of stepped back and said, what is the difference between these two people? And the only thing that separates the enlisted from their officers is a college degree. You cannot be an officer in the military without a college degree. At that point, I knew that the first chance that I got, I was going to leave the Navy, go to college, and never look back. And I did that. I went out, got my AA degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, and pursued doctoral studies. And what I learned is that you have to certify what you know. It's not enough to just be smart. You have to really certify what you know, because education is the one liberating thing. It's empowering, and that is the tool that will take you to your next step. So now what I want to do is dispel some of the myths that you're going to hear, and this applies to everyone in the room. These are the kind of myths that are out there that will keep you from succeeding. The first myth is that someone will say college is not for everyone. Well, we say that in our community like it's a fact, like it's a gospel, like it's a natural part of life. Well, that's not true. You have to realize who's saying that. If you go to a wealthy community or an affluent community, they're not preaching that there. They have high schools, but they also have derivatives to high schools. But they call them preparatory schools. They call them academies. They call them Montessori schools. These are schools to further instill in their students that college is for everyone and you need to be there. Now in our communities, we have high schools, but we also have derivative schools. We call them trade schools, vocational schools, schools of the arts, as if to tell you college may not be for you. You may want to get a head start on work. Then you got to think about this a little bit more. So if I'm the president of the United States, the vast majority of all of the kids of presidents of the United States have all gone to college. If you look at Fortune 500 companies and their CEOs, the vast majority of their kids go off to college. If you look at congressmen and high-ranking political officials, the vast majority of their kids go off to college. So if college is not for everyone, why are all their kids going to college? What you want to do is certify what you know. A lot of the people who graduated from the Allied health schools and medical administrations, you're going to go off and you're going to work for a company. In many instances, you may be actually running that company. You may actually do your supervisor's job or the owner's job, and you're still going to get the pay that you have. Keep in mind, nothing is stopping you from going and getting your business degree, starting your own medical assistant, medical billing school, medical billing company, and then coming back here and hiring 50 people to work for you. Don't ever forget that. The second myth is that a smaller or lesser school means a smaller or lesser person. So I want to really break this one down, okay? You go to Barnes & Noble, and you take someone who graduated from an Ivy League school, and you take someone that graduated from here, you walk in Barnes & Noble, you give them both the same book, and say you have 1 hour, write a book report. Do you know who's going to write the best book report? The smartest one. A smart person is going to be smart no matter where they go. You see this evidence and this example in kids all the time. You can get a kid from Buckhead, from Bankhead, from Alabama, from College Park. You put them in a room, give them all a puzzle. The smartest kid is just going to outshine everyone. It does not matter where you live, or where you come from. It's when you get older, you start buying into these myths that because the school you went to is going to limit how far you go. That is just not true. And if someone ever talks to you about your past, you need to tell them, you need to hire me for what I know, not for what I learned. The third myth, and this applies to everyone in the room. A lot of people will tell you that your past will determine the amount of success you can have. That's the biggest lie. People use that to hold you down. Some of you, when you wanted to come back to school, they might have used your age to hold you down. You know, how old are you? And you're trying to go back to school? Some of you may have kids, and they said to you, so you're going to leave your kids and just go to school. What about your kids? They're in school, they need you too. Some of you they might even use the name of the school to hold you back. Okay, so you're going to school, why that school? So you have to keep in mind that we've had presidents that have wanted to smoke weed, still became the president. You have Congress people that have bankrupted multiple companies, and they still get elected and re-elected. In these so-called top schools, you have people who graduate from those schools and go off and bankrupt companies, steal money. When you think about all the things that credit is supposed to stop you from doing in the way of employment, where the credit keeps you from stealing all those kind of things, when you look at the major crimes committed in this country, the Enron things, the Bernie Madoff scheme, those people went to top schools and had 750 plus credit scores. Think about that. So just understand that your past does not stop you. In fact, if you do what you're supposed to do in life, your past will be rendered irrelevant. I'll give you a good example. I'm living proof of this. I've told you my story. You've heard me speak for maybe 5 or 10 minutes now. Remember I told you I left high school early? Who cares that I had a GED? Who in this room really cares that I started with a GED? Your past does not define your future. It only tells you where you are. See, I don't care if you take a limo or take the MARTA. The only thing that matters is what you do when you get there. A lot of people use these things to try to hold you down and try to keep you back. But you have to remember that the only one that can stop you from being successful is you. And as far as being inferior, you can't be inferior unless you participate in that. Because as long as you believe you are good enough, you will be good enough. So the only way you can be inferior is if you buy into that. And the last thing I want to do is just give you a small little story to try to inspire you and to keep you kind of motivated and focused. And I'm going to talk to you about an acorn. And an acorn is a small little thing, but over time it turns into an oak tree. And this acorn is going to be an oak tree no matter what you do to it. So you can take this acorn and you can plant it in an orange grove, you can plant it in an apple field. No matter what you do to it, it's going to be an oak tree. And see, a lot of people around us are like those kind of farmers. Well, they'll tell you that you should be an attorney, or you should be a doctor, or you should be an athlete, or you should be a singer. Well, that acorn is meant to be an oak tree. And no matter what that farmer does to it, no matter what type of fertilizer it puts on it, that little acorn is going to be an oak tree no matter what happens to it. And you trying to change the essence of who you are based on some other farmer, i.e. parent, friend, spouse, is just as ridiculous as planting that acorn and expecting an oak tree. The other thing you have to understand about an acorn is that as small as it is, everything that it needs to become an oak tree is already inside of it. The same is true with you. All of you are meant to be something special. That gift is already inside of you. So there's no point in trying to pretend to be someone else, trying to pretend to be something you're not. How ridiculous would an oak tree look if it tried to pretend to be an apple tree or a pineapple tree? You look equally ridiculous if you were meant to be smart, meant to be a college graduate, meant to be successful, meant to be a good man, meant to be a good woman, but because of some external pressures, i.e. farmers, you try to be something that you're not. You are meant to be you. Your you is special, your you is unique to you, and your you is what's going to make you ultimately successful. I promise not to be long. In a room full of, a few thousand people, if something that I said can be motivational, inspirational, or encouraging in one person, then all of our time wasn't wasted here. And just remember those things. Certify what you know. Don't believe the myths. And no matter what happens, continue to be who you are because it's already inside of you and you don't have to find it. Thank you.